Wrapping it up here on Fox 32 News at noon.
The news continues, of course, on Chicago Live with Anita on Fox Local. Have a great day. Hope to see you back here at 4.
Everyone still riding high off of the Super Bowl. So we're going to talk a lot about several different aspects that still have people buzzing today. You know, a lot of water cooler conversations that are happening now. I did say I thought maybe the Seahawks would pull it out. So I'm excited about seeing the end, result of that. Although, listen, for most of us, we've been rooting for the Bears, so we didn't really have a dog in the fight. But it was nice to see their team pull it out. A defensive battle, so kind of was a slugfest. Like it moved along very slowly at first, but we all got through it. And of course, there's the halftime. We'll talk about that. Let's go over more specifically what we have lined up for this first hour that we have here together for Chicago Live. Listen, according to CPD Community Alert, police are investigating dozens of overnight vehicle burglaries targeting late model Hondas across Chicago. Now, yes, we've heard an alert like that before in some sense, maybe for valuables inside. Maybe the cars or vehicles were targeted for catalytic converters or things of that nature. But no, thieves are targeting airbags from steering wheels. And so obviously we have lots of questions about this. I'm going to talk with someone from the Automotive Maintenance and Repair Association about why they've become such a hot commodity and what we can do from becoming the next victim at the end of the day. Plus, we're going to talk about a major transportation infrastructure update in our state. The Illinois Tollway has extended its partnership with a company called the Quarter Hill. It is a 3-year, $10.7 million contract to support tolling operations, and this is across nearly 300 miles of highways used by more than 1.6 million drivers every day. So it's massive, and we'll explore the role that long-term public-private partnerships have in this state's future and hopefully future success. We've got a while before, of course, we are sitting back out at football games. That's one thing the Super Bowl always signals. It's kind of that time where you're like, oh, okay, well, what's next? Obviously, we have the Olympics going on right now. That's great. I watched speed skating and freestyle skating over the weekend. But beyond that, we're getting ready for baseball to come back around. Tina Nguyen is out in Arizona for spring training for the Sox, and we'll check in with her for this week's schedule, what's going on around there. Also, coming off of the Super Bowl, I'm really honored that Billy Ocasio, the president of the National Museum of Puerto Rican Arts and Culture here in the city, is going to be joining me in just a bit to break down the halftime performance that was historic in so many ways, from Bad Bunny, so much imagery, so much history. And if we're being honest, there was a whole lot of controversy before he ever queued up the music on Sunday night. So we're going to have him around to break that all down. First, though, there is another quickly approaching deadline. It just seems very odd, very cruel that we still don't know what is going on and where Savannah Guthrie, the Today Show host, where her mother is. It's been over a week now since she was abducted, and the deadline today from whoever is holding her captive is for 5 p.m. And Irene Snyder from our sister station in Phoenix is joining me again. Irene, you have been on this story pretty much from the beginning, and we so appreciate being able to catch you while you're in the car each day, kind of going back and forth between Tucson and Phoenix. Give us the update for today.
Well, yeah, good afternoon, Anita. The sad thing is we really don't have a lot of updates as far as what's happening with Nancy Guthrie. Really, the big thing today, as you mentioned, there is a ransom. Now, at this point, the FBI and the sheriff's office still trying to even determine if those ransom notes are valid. There were a couple of them sent to stations here in Tucson, including KOLD, which is one of our sister stations there, as well as TMZ2 reporting getting some of those ransom notes. The first deadline was on Thursday. Since then, we've seen the Guthrie family posting things on Instagram, saying the second video that they posted on Savannah Guthrie's account said, "We will pay." And now the second deadline is tonight at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So, the clock is really ticking for this, and they said they are demanding $6 million in Bitcoin. There's been a lot of talk of whether or not Bitcoin is traceable, or why the captor or supposed captor is demanding that Bitcoin and $6 million of it. So, there's been a lot of talk. There's been a lot of speculation among neighbors in the Tucson area. So this is, if any of you are familiar with this particular area, it's called the Catalina Foothills. It's just outside of Tucson, and that's where 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie lives. So there have been sheriff's officers that have been securing the home over the last few days. We saw them there yesterday. We also saw them there today, just trying to make sure everything is safe and sound there on scene. But there's still, a lot of media out there, a lot of neighbors walking by. They've been dropping off flowers, dropping off little sculptures and stuff, like the Virgin Mary, saying they're having prayers for the family. There was a church service yesterday at the church where Nancy Guthrie attends, and where she didn't show up the week before, which is the reason why they even knew that she was missing, and everyone is really just sending out their thoughts and prayers for her. But again, that deadline is at 5 p.m. today, and there's still speculation as to whether or not these ransom notes are legitimate. So we're waiting on more information from the FBI and the Sheriff's Department on that front.
Yeah, and it is, I would think that it's so hard for them to ascertain whether it's legitimate or not. There is one man, I believe, that is now in the court proceedings for sending out a fake note in the midst of this.
Yeah, that's correct, Anita. That was one of the first notes, and that person is in the middle of court proceedings, as you mentioned, for a fake note. But now the second one, we don't know. There's a lot of speculation. But one of the things about the second note is, I believe KOLD, one of the anchors there, had spoken out saying that, there are some specifics in that note that make it concerning and interesting from, a news perspective, as whether or not it's legitimate. So we don't know those exact details. Law enforcement isn't releasing those details for the safety, of all those involved. But the interesting thing about this note is, since then, the Guthrie family has come out with 2 videos. And, people who've been dissecting those videos said that, they believe that FBI investigators, people who are experts on these kind of hostage or ransom situations, did give the Guthrie family some advice on how to word this message. So that's something that makes it interesting compared to the first note. They are releasing 2 videos, or I think 3 videos, I think, if you include the one that was from Savannah Guthrie's brother as well. So that's been 3 videos at this point, and the most recent video posted did say, "We will pay." But the thing they're asking for now is proof of life. And as far as we've heard so far, they have not gotten that proof yet.
And that was going to be my next question, because I believe the first video of the 3 siblings together, yes, they were asking for proof of life. It did seem, the next video with the 3 of them together did seem very different in the wording, in terms of, we want her back to celebrate her. You mentioned, the first one says we need proof of life, but the second video with all 3 of them together finally says we will pay. So if the first one says we need proof of life and we will pay, the next one says we will pay. Okay, did you get some type of proof of life?
Yeah, and that's something we don't have the answer to right now. The Sheriff's Department, I think we talked last week, Anita, saying the public is wanting answers. They want answers to these questions, but at the same time, I've covered other cases too, where at some points investigators can't give out a certain amount of information because they don't want to, the captors to realize, everything they have either. So there are certain things, that we can get from investigators, other things that they might be a little tight-lipped about, and we don't know why. So it could be for and very well maybe for the safety of all those involved.
Yeah. And then in terms of coming back out there, now the FBI is involved now, and it does seem like the local police and the federal officers are working together on this very well. But going back out, you could see them like on rooftops, going in like wells. I don't know if they're like going back over things they already looked at, or they're thinking of new things to look at, or if there's something in these notes that indicates they need to look in some other places.
Yes, so I believe some of the video that we had was showing them looking like the septic tank in the backyard. They
Yeah.
also were checking out her other daughter's home as well. We saw a video over the weekend of a car being towed. So we don't know why a lot of that is happening. But one of the things that the sheriff did mention was that one of the reasons they keep going back to the house, and they kept, first of all, house was clear. When I was there on, I think it was Tuesday, he said that is no longer an active crime scene. We didn't see any police, the sheriff's office, any FBI in front of the home in the Catalina foothills. But then days later, we saw their presence again. And he kind of explained that as saying, well, now the FBI is involved. So that's one of the reasons for going back to the home. And at one point it was open. Another point they blocked off the street, to local traffic and to media. And then it was reopened again. I was there in front of the home today. So I think they are kind of going back and combing through some things again, especially now that the FBI is involved.
Well, really interesting. And when is the next press conference supposed to take place? Because, of course, the sheriff did say like every 2 days unless there's a major update.
That was originally the plan last week. So when I was there on Tuesday, they said there was going to be a press conference every couple of days. That made it Thursday. And since any more press conferences now this week. So I think we're basically waiting on some more information at this point for them to give to us.
Okay. All right. Irene, again, we really appreciate you being able to take us there, and just, we're all hoping and praying that something breaks here in the Guthrie family's favor. Thank you again for your time. You all be safe on the road.
Thank you. You too. Yeah, we're all hoping and praying she's going to be all right. So it's such a sad story to cover, but we want to make sure we get the information out there.
Yeah, sad, strange, all of it. Thank you. All right, it's 1:12 right now. Let's take a quick break. Give us 2 minutes. Our next guest is already on the line, and I'm really looking forward to this next conversation. All right, just about 1:15, and boy, oh boy, there was so much said, so much to see in the Super Bowl halftime performance from Bad Bunny. Massive artist, worldwide, global artist, and on such a big stage for the Super Bowl yesterday. So I'm honored, really, that Billy Ocasio, the president of the National Museum of Puerto Rican Arts and Culture, is here to help break down what we saw, what maybe some of us understood and others could learn from. Thanks so much for your time.
Hello, thank you so much for this invitation.
Listen, last time I saw you and your wife, we were over at the MCA, and you all were still in the scene, dancing away. Uh, so I can only imagine you all getting in some moves last night during Bad Bunny.
Oh, yes, actually, I'm here in Puerto Rico. We came to watch the game here and celebrate with the people.
Yes. So tell me, how was it watching it in Puerto Rico?
It was amazing. I think that what Bad Bunny did was he gave everybody a whole history lesson, whether they knew it or not. He gave a history lesson about Puerto Rico, about oppression, about colonies, about injustice. And yet he did it in such a beautiful way, sharing who we are, sharing our culture, our traditions with everyone.
Yeah. So, and it started from going through the sugar cane. Tell us about the
Yes.
significance there.
Well, I mean, this country was built on the workers of the sugar cane, right? The brown and the blacks who they had in this country, basically building the economy for other countries and stuff. So it was very significant. I think that, to honor the workers, those people who have lifted up our people and our country and kept our traditions, even though they went through so many struggles. I think the sugarcane was part of it. He did so much with other people. Just the seniors playing dominoes alone was sending a message. And no, we're still here, guys.
Yeah.
We're still here.
Yeah, it was very intergenerational for sure, interwoven with different types of music that are significant to Puerto Rican culture.
It was. I mean, you had plena, you had side, you had every type of genre of music that is important to us and to other folks, right? When he talked about the Americas, he didn't just talk about, America, the United States, like we see it. No, he was talking about Central America. He was talking about South America. He was talking about to our people and all of those struggles that they've been through, but how we all come together. He even had the little, Liam at the end of the video, and Liam was the 5-year-old that ICE kind of kidnapped, right? He had Liam dressed up as him as a little kid. There was so many messages in his music and in his presentation. When you saw the light poles, right, the electrical poles that had all the sparks, he was basically sending a message that, hey, even after the hurricane, we still don't have a power grid in Puerto Rico, and we are part of the United States. They still have not taken care of that. That's what he was trying to do.
Yeah, and maybe that joy can be a form of protest as well in the midst of it all.
Well, and that's what he was reminding us. Don't forget who we are. Don't forget all of our traditions and our history and what has made us. And we are still here regardless of some people trying to throw paper towels at us in order to alleviate a problem. We are still here and we're going to be here. And yet we need to find beauty in who we are. And, his last message was that, hey, there's one thing that outdoes hate, and that's love.
Yeah. Talk about some of the special guests. I mean, I was able to of course we knew Ricky Martin, but there were plenty of other people who popped up who were significant as well.
Well, you have Ricky Martin for sure. And, and Ricky Martin's message was so strong. The song that he was singing was a very strong message. And it was really about what's happening here as a colony. But he also had Lady Gaga. And Lady Gaga was a way for him to reach out to all of those other people who feel like they're being left out, right? And he did a whole thing about reaching out to the LGBTQ community plus community. He was reaching out to them as well. He was reaching out to other Latinos. He was reaching out to the diaspora. He was reaching out to the Black community by the people he invited. He had Jessica Alba there. He had young artists there. He had, so many people that were part of this. He even had the whole, one of the most famous boxers in this video. And he had the older generation, right? He had them. He wanted to display them and say, no, you have lived through all of this. We're going to celebrate who you are.
Yeah, I saw, was it Carol G who was there?
Carol G was there. Carly B was there.
Yeah.
He had so many different people there. He really thought this out. I think he did a fantastic job in in taking everything that we're going through now, but putting it in an art form so that people could understand there's joy, there's beauty, but there's also struggle.
Yeah. I believe there was like a story behind the woman at the cafecita.
Oh, yes, yeah. He uses her during his video, the video he created around DTMF, Debía de tirar más fotos. He uses her, and she's been around for quite some time, celebrates every year. She does a big festival to celebrate our young people and to celebrate, who we are. And so, she has become like this icon. And that's what he's done. He's taken people from various generations, young people, older people, middle-aged people, and he's taken every single genre and everything that we are about. He's put that all into his music and let people celebrate who we are.
Let me ask you, for those who didn't want to celebrate, there was an alternative Super Bowl halftime or a halftime show during the Super Bowl. What were your thoughts on an alternative halftime happening at the same time?
I got to stand with the NFL. I got to stand with Jay-Z. They have been on the right side of history here. Though that alternative was for folks who really are trying to avoid what's actually going on, who have blinders on, who don't want to see what's happening in our country. I mean, that's what they did. And it was like, why do you take that away from the NFL, from our community, from our people? We've always celebrated during halftime. You celebrated all sorts of people. And yet here we have a chance to celebrate the Latino community, our Black and brown community, and yet they decide, oh, no, you should be watching something else. Well, sorry, guys, you missed a great show.
It was a great show indeed. There was also the conversation about, okay, well, obviously it was the first time that Super Bowl halftime was primarily in Spanish. What were your thoughts on that? And do you think, some people have said, well, maybe we should have had like, subtitles so that everyone understood the lyrics. What do you think?
It was interesting. I saw so many videos of people who did not understand Spanish looking up the songs and learning the Spanish language. We have, people speaking Spanish in the United States is going to grow by 2050. And it's one of those languages you have to, but look, his music, his show, even if you didn't understand what he was trying to say, you understood the feeling, you understood those pictures, you understood that worker in the sugarcane field, you understood what the message was. And you also knew how to move your hips, and that's what it was about.
Yeah. Even if you don't speak Spanish, it was beautiful. It really was, and it was something to be celebrated and historic. Just taking in a historic moment, if nothing else, and learning something. There was an opportunity to learn something new.
Yeah, and we invite people. We invite people over to the museum to learn more about the Puerto Rican culture. And we invite you to come and visit Puerto Rico and learn what it's really about. We got great food, we got great music, but we have a very long and strong history.
And tell us more about, anything that's going to be happening at your museum or is currently happening at your museum that people need to check out too.
Well, we have 3 great exhibits going on, and we have one that's actually coming down now in March, and it is a partnership with the Smithsonian Museum and with the Roberto Clemente Museum, and it's really about Latinos in baseball, but it highlights Roberto Clemente, who was not only a great baseball player, but one of the best humanitarians. Really great exhibit. So we want you to come out and join us. And on February 20th, we have a book talk with the professor who was the one hired by the Bad Bunny company to teach them all, make sure that they had their history correct. And he was the one who did all of the subtitles and everything during the concert. He was the one who gave out the facts, the historical facts during that concert. So he has a great book out. And so we invite people February 20th.
Very interesting. And, the celebration will continue. Thank you so much. Enjoy your time in Puerto Rico.
Thank you.
Take care. Love his spirit. It's about 1:25, everybody. Give us 2 minutes. Tina Nguyen is on the line, and we're going to talk spring training after this. Okay, everyone, 1:27, and we've gone from "Are you ready for some football?" to "All right, are you about ready for baseball?" Tina Nguyen is in Arizona right now, sunny Arizona. Tina?
Hi, how are you? Yes, it is sunny. We just got back in the car. I'm trying to turn the air on right now because it's very hot. But I'm glad to see the sun because I know how cold it is back in Chicago.
Was that like whiplash for you going from Chicago to now having sleeveless attire?
I know, trying not to sweat essentially and not to let people know that I'm sweating on live TV. Yes, a bit of a whiplash here, but no, super excited because obviously both Cubs and White Sox are out here for spring training. We have White Sox today and tomorrow, and then we'll be with the Cubs on Wednesday and Thursday. But for both teams, a lot of great storylines to look forward to here.
Okay, now what happens this early? Because everyone in the newsroom is kind of like, no, wait a minute. I mean, literally, the Super Bowl was just yesterday. So what is happening this quickly with spring training?
I know, isn't it crazy how the sports calendar, there's truly no off season, especially in the city of Chicago. We go from having the NFL season, obviously football's officially over, but even when you look at the NFL, there's truly no off season because Cassie Carlson's going to be headed to the combine later on this month. But in between all that, you've got the basketball season, the hockey season, and of course right now, here spring training, both teams getting ready for the upcoming year. They've got some new faces as well. And yeah, you have guys here for the White Sox specifically. You have young players, guys who are wanting to make this 26-man roster, right? But you have a lot of new faces. Chris Getz has been busy this winter, this offseason for the White Sox. One of their biggest names they've added in the offseason is Munetaka Murakami, and I believe he is already in town. I heard through the grapevine as well, there's a very large Japanese media here. Just excited, getting ready to cover him, and he's one of 3 players this year who's coming over from the NPB. That is essentially the baseball league. They're back in Japan. That's where Shota Imanaga played as well, Seiya Suzuki as well too, but he has been one of the biggest surprises for the Sox team, being able to sign him for 2 years, $34 million. They're adding some power to their lineup. back home in Japan. He hit 56 home runs in
Whoa.
one season. One thing with him, though, that people or maybe fans kind of are hesitant about is he strikes out at a very high rate, but this guy comes with a lot of power. I know Miguel Vargas got a text from Yoshinobu Yamamoto with some really high praises for Mune. Mune is his nickname, so that's what the guys are calling him. But yeah, he's a big addition there to this lineup. And then you've also got Sir Anthony Dominguez as well. He's a high leverage reliever. Will Getz talked about how he's going to be closing a lot of games for us. Yeah, so I could go on and on and on, as you can tell, but a lot to look forward to here this upcoming year for the White Sox, who, yes, they lost 100 plus games last year. I believe the record was 60 and 102. But I mean, Anita, there's a ton of hope and optimism here heading into this year.
Well, listen, I mean, to start the season off in any other way just wouldn't seem right. So at least start off with the optimism, and let's see where we go from here. How long will you be there?
So I am here until Friday. Today we've got White Sox and tomorrow as well. Chris Getz is set to address the media here at 3:30 Arizona time, 4:30 Chicago time. We'll be live in the 5 o'clock, and of course, you can also hear from him as well in our daily sports show, Chicago Sports Tonight. Pitchers and catchers will report tomorrow for the White Sox, and then we're going to be headed to the Cubs. They are out in Mesa. We'll be there Wednesday and Thursday. Some of the guys in the front office will talk on Wednesday, and then Thursday, pitchers and catchers will report. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Does it seem like, I mean, or maybe, why does it seem like there's so much optimism and this time, why do you think it's so special, the start of spring training, for both the players and the fans?
Yeah, well, I think specifically for the White Sox, if you talk to some of the players, Will Venable and Chris Getz, they will both mention how the second half of last year saw this team really take strides. They really built some momentum, and Will Venable said that's a credit to all the work that they had put in the front end there of the season. But last year, you really saw a lot of guys, several key players, make their MLB debut in Kyle Teel, Colson Montgomery. I mean, he was a fixture in that lineup. 21 home runs in 71 games. He was the player that they sent down back to the minor league to really kind of reset, start all over. And I got the chance to talk to him last season, and he just talked about how grateful that time was for him getting to work and kind of break down the fundamentals again. And Chris Getz talked about how for that to have worked, for them to send him back down to the minor leagues to really, in a sense, break him down and build him back up, he had to also buy into that. So I'm excited to see what he does this season. A lot of just the young core of this roster. I mean, we saw in the second half of the year what they are capable of. And then you look at the additions that Chris Getz have added this offseason. As I mentioned, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Anthony Kay, Sean Newcomb, Austin Hayes as well. And Chris Getz also mentioned, I'm going to continue to stay active throughout spring training, looking at ways to improve this roster. Just an hours ago, right before we actually went on for our noon live shot, the White Sox are bringing back Eric Fetty to a 1-year deal. So there's going to be a lot of movement as well throughout spring training. But you look at just the core of this team right now, the young core, and you kind of marry that with some of the veteran guys that Chris Getz and the front office have done, the work that they've done in the offseason to add to this team. I think they're definitely going to be more competitive than compared to the seasons prior.
Well, we certainly hope so. And I think even as a journalist, being with the team from the start, you'll have a different perspective by the end of the season as to whether some of these things actually came to fruition or where they stumbled along the way or what they need to do moving forward.
Totally. The White Sox, get this, Anita, they've lost 324 games in the last 3 seasons. That is the third most in the MLB. But you look at last year, first year with Will Venable, 19 win improvement compared to the 2024 season that saw them lose 121 games. I mean, that was a new record here in baseball. But you look at that 19 win improvement, that's second in baseball, right behind the Blue Jays there. And then you're coming into this year, you've added some veteran guys, right? Chris Getz is going to continue to improve this roster too. But I think more importantly, the really young core, the younger guys on this team, they have a season now where they've played in the major leagues, right? They know what that experience is like. So I think that's going to really help them too.
All right. Well, we'll be checking back in. Thanks so much. And you all be safe out there.
Of course. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Take care. It's about 1:35. I think that is such an awesome assignment to be able to catch the team in spring training, because some things that you will see along the way, she'll have a different perspective on after seeing them at this stage in their overall season. So I'm enjoying being able to chat with her from out there and look forward to more conversations while she's out there. And she's so right. I mean, there's just back to back things here for Chicago. She's there at spring training now. As she mentioned, Cassie will be at the combine in just a few more weeks. March Madness will be here before we know it. The NFL draft. I mean, you get where I'm going here. Don't cry over the football season ending yesterday. There's plenty more to come. All right, and there's plenty more here. Give us 2 minutes. We'll be right back. All right, 137 and the Illinois Tollway has extended a public-private partnership that could be vital to its future longevity and success. I want to go ahead and bring in a Quarter Hill CEO, Chuck Myers, to talk a little bit more about the partnership and where we go from here. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, Anita.
Tell me about Quarter Hill, first and foremost, and the connection to the Illinois Tollway.
Okay, Quarter Hill, we provide both roadside and operational back office support to the tollway. We support 1.5 million drivers, 300 miles of road a day, and our goal is to be invisible to the patrons and the drivers. So we support the technology behind it. We've had this contract in place since 2005, and I personally actually was involved in the very first installation of electronic toll collection system in '95 for the entire Illinois Tollway.
Wow.
So I've been involved for a long time.
Yeah, and tell me how it's evolved.
It evolved from, if you think back, and maybe many of your viewers won't even remember it, when you still had gates and coin baskets. We took those all out and put in the first iPass systems, where you had the electronic toll collection systems, and that's really how it's evolved today. And as time has gone on, we look at more and more things visually. People tend to see things where there's a lot of additional add-ons through video and things like that, but primarily it's been a continuation of the system that's been there since 2005 with just modern technology upgrades, which is where we are with this contract extension as well.
And that was going to be where I was going with this. I mean, with the contract extension now, what are going to be some of the things you're able to do or that you want to do?
I think it's really continue to support the tollway and how they deal with their modernization. We're just a cog in the system of a lot of different vendors and a lot of different technologies, and we really focus on how we can support the patrons and how we can support the tollway and giving them the best service. And we really provide the integration of what they do in the back office and what we do in the lanes.
But how do you see technology continuing to move you all forward and how you do your business? I mean, already, yes, I do remember some of the things that you talked about, like, oh, I remember, and I didn't live out here in 2005, but I remember like going up and down through New York, you know, and all of the times that you would have to use the basket and the, you know, the lever having to go, it was so cumbersome and ticked a lot of people off, but things have changed so much. So where do you see them continuing to change with so much technology out there?
I think that the biggest move, and our company's very focused on artificial intelligence. And as you know, today you have the toll tag, right? And our focus is really on what you can do with video and other things besides the tag to remove a lot of the infrastructure that's in the system today. A lot of things that happen when you see lane closures and road closures are all tied to the equipment that's embedded in the road. And as the technologies change, our goal as a company is get everything out of the roadbed and have free flow of traffic for everybody all the time. So then you're not dealing with all the technology problems that come along with having things embedded in the roadbed when the snowplows come along, or when the roadbed gets too hot during the summer. So we really focus on how we're moving that technology up out of the road and really making it as visible as possible to the patrons.
Mm-hmm. Where do you think, since I gave the example of New York, where do you think Illinois and our tollway system and you all's work, where do you think it stands? Where do you think it measures up in the country?
One of the best. Illinois has been a leader. They were very early on following the New York area. The first systems kind of in the country, a little bit in Texas, but primarily in New York, Lincoln Tunnel, Holland Tunnel, New York State Thruway. And close behind that in technology has always been Illinois Tollway. They have a great technical team over there, and they really are striving to be a leader in the industry.
Mm-hmm. And you know, you all made a point of pointing out the public-private partnership. Why is that so important in the future for the state?
Well, I think from our perspective, it's really about having a trusted relationship and being a trusted vendor to the tollway and to all of our customers. We want to be there. You know, we're really supplying the technology. We want to make sure they have the most advanced technology that's the most reliable, and it's going to give everybody the best opportunity to get somewhere quickly and not feel any of the pain that goes along with it. You know, as these infrastructure costs have risen over the years, and, you know, tolls become vitally important, especially in a major metropolitan area like Chicago. And, you know, we want to be there so we're as kind of non-apparent or completely transparent to the agency as they move along.
Yeah. I mean, some people would ask, like, how complicated this gets in trying to make those things happen.
Yep. It's actually quite complex. So if you go back to the system that I put in originally in 1995, that was the first system in that area that had, if remember the RF tags that you put in your window, that was one of the very first ones in the country. And that technology alone is incredibly complex. You have to think about not only am I dealing with radio waves, I have to track cars. You know, there were requirements that you had to track cars a foot or 2 feet apart at 100 miles an hour so that you knew you were tracking and only charging tolls to the exact customer.
Yeah.
You know, you had to be extremely accurate, and we're still there today. And even with video enforcement, that's gotten AI's become a very big part of that. You want to make sure that if you have a missed toll or you have somebody that's trying to get around the tolls. You want to make sure that your technology is so good, you're not mischarging a valued person.
No one ever tries to get around the tolls. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Never heard of that. What are some of you all's frustrations, or even critiques that people give you all for you to work on?
I think the biggest one is just making sure, at least in our experience, and we operate systems all over the country and in other countries as well. It's really about making sure the customer gets the best experience and making sure the system doesn't fail. The tollway and all of our other customers are emphatic about reliability, especially when you get bad weather like we've had recently.
Sure.
We don't want to put the user in jeopardy, slow things down, stop the traffic. And I think one of the biggest things is making sure we have very advanced technology that's incredibly reliable.
Yeah. Well, it's been great talking with you. Congratulations on the contract extension, and thank you for what you and your company have done and continue to do to give us a little ease on the roadways when we're on the tollways.
Thanks, Anita. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely. Take care. 1:45, everyone.
All right.
2-minute break. And actually, no, we don't need to take a 2-minute break here. We're still going to be talking about what's going on in cars. So from the tollways, let's go ahead and talk about what's happening with airbags, okay? This is another conversation that's really big right now. We got an alert from CPD that has so many people talking. And, we hear about break-ins. That doesn't necessarily really get you going in terms of like, whoa, what is happening here? Often, therefore, the valuables that may be sitting inside someone's car, or, for the last several years, it's been catalytic converters. I just saw a video from over the weekend of that still being a thing. But this is new. Now we're starting to hear about thieves going after airbags, and specifically for late model Honda vehicles. So Jeff Cox is with the Automotive Maintenance and Repair Association. He's going to walk us through a bit of this, what you're hearing, and maybe what we can do to keep this from happening to us. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Anita. Airbags have been in the top, it's been a topic for quite a while now. As some of you may remember, Honda was the one that had the big recall years back with their airbags.
The Takata.
And, starting at that point, that really created some supply chain issues, and those supply chain issues haven't totally gone away. However, that's not really what's driving the influx of the theft on these airbags. It really comes down to a couple of things. Honda specifically are targeted because the ease of stealing the airbags. It only takes the thieves a few minutes to be able to get the airbag out from the vehicle. Also, Hondas are they're everywhere. They're a very common car, and so many people, with so many of them on the road, it creates a demand for them. And so anytime you have a demand, then you have people trying to supply those parts and those products. Obviously, Hondas are more of an economical vehicle, and so a lot of times the owners are looking for more economical approaches to replacing those airbags, and so that's kind of driving some of it. I also think, you don't hear a lot of people talking about this with the Honda with the Honda airbags, and that is counterfeit airbags. So there was a lot of companies making counterfeit airbags, basically airbags that don't meet safety requirements. And there's been a lot of states really cracking down on ensuring that these counterfeit airbags are being taken off the market and aren't there. And so that's leaving either two things. You either buy a OE airbag at a few $1,000s, or you're trying to find a cheaper version. And so with counterfeit airbags hopefully subsiding, unfortunately, it's leaving more opportunity for the market of stolen airbags. And so it's quite the issue. And unfortunately, I'm not sure it's going to go away anytime soon on its own.
I am so perplexed by it though, because you mentioned like the Takata airbag recall, and I'm thinking, okay, if there is a recall, even if there may be budget concerns for said car owner, if there is a recall, and that was a massive recall, wouldn't you be allowed to get that fixed for free?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I don't think that the Takata airbag issue is driving this theft. Most of those airbags have been replaced. They were all replaced under warranty at no cost to consumers. And so there's no reason for a consumer to buy a stolen airbag off Facebook Marketplace, or a shop to buy stolen airbags to fix the recall issue. So this is totally secondary to that. It just happens to be on Honda vehicles. I think that's the only thing in common with this, is that it's a Honda. Other than that, there's really no connection.
But like, I think most people, you get like, okay, maybe you left a purse in a vehicle, or some type of bag out in a vehicle, and somebody breaks the window and takes that type of valuable, or they break the window and they rummage through your middle console, and something like that. But like, taking out the airbag, and is there no way for, like, if you're reselling that, to know that it was stolen? Can't these things be tracked?
There's no way that I know that they can be tracked. However, if you do a quick search, and I'm one of those kind of Facebook Marketplace junkies, it doesn't take long to find airbags, and obviously when you look at them, you don't know if they're stolen, or if they're just removed from a salvage vehicle. It's really hard to tell which ones are legit and which ones aren't. But that just goes to show you how easy it is to remove one of these airbags from that Honda, because like you said, it's you see a purse there, or you open up the center console, or back 10 years ago when people would have stereos.
Yes.
It was easy to steal those things, and so this falls in line with that. They're easy to steal, and there's some market for it.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I mean, like, catalytic converters, there's value in the metal, but what is the value in the airbag? I do not get. I'm not an automotive expert. Is there some type of metal in it, or is it just reselling the airbag itself that becomes valuable?
Yeah, it is really just reselling the airbag. Yeah, there's no precious metal in there. There's obviously the white bag part of it that we always see, and then there's a propulsion gas that's inside it to move that bag out to protect the driver and the passengers. But other than that, no, there's nothing to strip down. Yeah, as you mentioned, catalytic converters, there's precious metals in them, that as those metals increase in values, the increase in the catalytic converter increases in value too. But in this case, this is really from a reselling those airbags to either individuals out there, or to shops that are doing repairs on vehicles, that are using this to either save customers money, or that unfortunately that might be best case scenario, but I think a lot of times it's to save themselves money and still bill customers at that full price of what they would be buying one from the dealership.
Yeah, I mean, like, putting in an airbag into a system foreign to that airbag, could the person even trust what they're getting if it came from another vehicle?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And as consumers, I think that's something that we have to be really smart about. So, if you own a Honda, late model Honda Civic CRV, and you've been in an accident, or you're having a issue with your airbag light illuminated, and you're having repairs done, ensuring that the shop isn't using used, counterfeit, stolen airbags, that they are purchasing your airbag from a dealership and an OE distributor, and asking for proof of that, I think is really important as a consumer, because I think, yeah, you don't know where that airbag has been, and you don't know what happened to it. Let's say for the case that it was a stolen airbag, you don't know what happened to it during the dismantling of it. So it's really important for consumers to be aware, especially if they have one of these hot vehicles that they're taking these airbags from.
And I think I saw something about putting a club over your wheel, that could help. Is that true? And are there some other things that you would suggest people do to keep from this happening to you?
Yeah, it can help, because one of the factors that's making this airbag kind of a target is how easy it is. And I don't know, I've never tried to steal one to know exactly how fast it is, but if you watch the disassembly of them, it's pretty easy, and these folks can do it in just minutes. And so I think anytime you can deter them, or you can make it more difficult for these bad actors, I think it's worth it. And so these clubs that were really popular in the 80s might be something that a consumer, especially with one with a Honda, may want to consider, because as they're walking up and down the streets looking for target vehicles, if they see something like, oh, that's going to take me an extra 10 minutes to do, that means I could potentially get caught, it's not worth it. And so doing that, and all of the other safety precautions that people should do with their vehicles, I think still are in place here. Parking in safe areas, parking in well-lit areas, making sure your doors are locked, making sure just you do as much as you can on your part to make it more difficult for these thieves, I think is the best thing you can do right now.
Well, I'm glad that you didn't try to steal one for research purposes. I'm not sure that would have worked with the cops, but thanks so much for your time. We really do seriously appreciate you.
Thank you. Be safe out there.
Okay, you too. It's 1:57, everybody. Now we're going to take a 2-minute break, and then I'll set you up for where we're going from here in the 2 o'clock hour. right, welcome back, everyone. Just about 2 o'clock, so let's talk about what's coming up in this hour here on Chicago Live. Obviously, we're still kind of fleshing out lots of different things from the Super Bowl. That's our big topic for today that we're kind of getting subtopics from. And one of them has to do with an ad that was about Ring doorbell cameras. I mean, Ring cameras obviously very popular right now, have been for several years, and can help in many ways for families that have them. So in the ad, they introduced a new feature. And just like everything else, I mean, technology, it's like, it's great when it works, horrible when it's not. It can be used for good, could be used for bad. And we're going to talk a little bit about a new warning that came out after the ad about the new feature that they introduced during the Super Bowl. There's so many eyes, and those ads are millions of dollars, but they're getting some flack, a little pushback on the ad that they featured during the Super Bowl. Also, we're going to talk about Google Trends during the Super Bowl. One of the things that I love to do during the Super Bowl is to just look at what's trending during it, like who's talking about what, whether it was a halftime performance, a different artist who they were spotting, people they spotted in the crowds, in the boxes upstairs, different things that people saw around in terms of imagery. There were plenty of things that were being Googled during the game. And so we're going to talk about some of the very popular search trends. One of them is youngest coach to win a Super Bowl spiked over 1,350% in the U.S. during the game. Seattle we were just talking about the Supersonics earlier, but the Seattle Seahawks, their coach is just 38 years old. And so it's a huge moment for him. Also, we're going to talk possibly, we might not talk, but we might see the governor speaking. He is supposed to be at a centennial anniversary event for Route 66. Obviously, this year is a big year for Route 66, so there are tons of events that are happening throughout the year, and he's supposed to be at one somewhere during this hour in Granite City. And if we get that live picture, we will take you there. But this first conversation, boy, oh boy, we've heard of the midlife crisis before. Probably all hope that we never experience it. But the way we look at it and the way psychologists look at it is changing. And there are many factors as to why. So Dr. Elizabeth Schwab, who is a psychologist and professor and founding chair of the master's program, Behavioral Economics at the Chicago School, is joining me now to speak about a new report out. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
So a lot of times when we think midlife crisis, someone is just can't deal with being in their 50s or 60s, maybe late 40s, and you just buy things that are exorbitant, or you feel like you need a new look or something else. But there's this new data that says, one, that a midlife crisis could go way deeper than that. Tell me a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. I think even when I was growing up, midlife crisis meant that you bought a red Ferrari and had a hot blonde next to you in the car. I mean, it's really different now. And that's what these researchers are saying too, is that more and more, it's sort of this quiet midlife crisis that we're, experiencing internally. We're perceiving a gap from where we thought we would be. Maybe life didn't turn out the way we expected. And suddenly we feel this time crunch and this pressure that we have to do something in order to make up the difference.
Yeah. And the time crunch. Even though we are seeing life expectancy over the years, I mean, I don't know where it is like year to year, but life expectancy has extended. Why do we feel the crunch?
Yeah, I think some of this is self-imposed and sort of socially reinforced. The way that we grew up has a lot to do with it. I mean, some of the sort of the patterns that we saw in our parents, or maybe they observed, or socially we saw on TV and different things like that, that can influence how we think about age and about the numbers that are, part of that as well. We hit 60 or we hit 50 and we have this idea in our heads that things are going to change quite drastically, or that perhaps, we're just running out of time. I don't think it's like that anymore, though. Age isn't based in numbers anymore. It's really based in the internal experience that we're having. It's based in how we feel health-wise and what we're experiencing at work and at home too.
That health component, I think, is huge when it comes to your feelings changing midlife. You know, like one, for women, it's like, what is going on with my body? But even for men, I mean, you know, there are things that are changing in their bodies as well, that it's like, wait a minute, you know, when I was in my 20s, I did this, and now I'm going to the doctor for this, and this.
Right. And there's so many more demands that we have too. It's all of a sudden, it's all these testings, right? It's colonoscopy, it's blood tests, it's high blood pressure and cholesterol. So certainly we're having to face more aspects of our bodies aging and changing than we were before. But these things always existed. You know, we just weren't really paying attention. We weren't minding it too much because we thought, oh, I've got so much time, it really doesn't matter. And so a lot of times health and our bodies is the lowest thing on our priority list.
Yeah, and income changes this as well. Talk to that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think access to healthcare costs in general, being able to do things to eat better, to take care of your body, to exercise, these things a lot of times cost money. And, you know, cost of living has gone up quite a bit and wages aren't exactly keeping up. So things can feel really expensive and overwhelming. And then, of course, I think, you know, on social media and in the media in general, in the news, we really highlight and talk a lot about people with huge amounts of wealth. And that can feel very foreign and very different to us. You know, it's hard to relate to someone who's being labeled a billionaire. You know, I'm just middle class, right? You know, it's hard to understand that much wealth and to relate to the problems that they have, maybe.
Yeah, and then maybe thinking by that point in your life, like, can I even change it? Like in your young life, you still feel like you can do a million things, but maybe midlife, you're thinking, can I even change my current predicament?
Yeah, and I think too, I mean, that's what I mean about having like self-imposed restrictions. I mean, the only person that decides that you don't have all this time or that things are super urgent for you is you. No one else in your life is saying that. So, I mean, part of that is sort of reframing that for yourself and to better understand, you know, maybe you're not going to be a billionaire, but would you be happy being a billionaire anyway? I don't know. It's really about discovering your purpose in life and being comfortable with what you have and not so much focused on what you don't have.
Yeah. Why do you think, I mean, in this report, it's really looking at it from the perspective of this being more of an American issue than other parts of the world?
Yeah. I mean, you know, the researchers were looking at the different kinds of social structures that other countries have. They tend to have more affordable health care. They tend to have more benefits for families, you know, maternity leave that's extended, you know, family paid leave. And, you know, that's not something that Americans easily have access to. We don't really have access to affordable health care. We don't have access to, you know, different collective sort of agreements about how we're going to cope with aging. I mean, part of it too is, you know, it's a uniquely American thing to think that these problems are just ours and ours alone to solve. We don't tend to rely on our community or our neighbors or our friends and family to talk about these things because, you know, it is sort of this uniquely private thing that we go through. A lot of times we're experiencing body changes, psychological changes, changes in our expectations for ourselves and our family. And that's not easy to talk about always.
Yeah, but that is where community can help you in realizing you're not alone. And the flip side is feeling alone just adds to the loneliness and depression. When if you have some community, you know, you can even find some humor in some things that are changing in your bodies. You're like, oh, thank goodness I'm not alone.
Right. I mean, it is about that idea of like reframing things for yourself. You're not alone. You do need to reach out to your community. And it's funny because last year I read something which talked about how friendships are proximity. how we're, close to each other and how that fosters like a deeper sense of belonging. So one of the things that I did, I put Adirondack chairs in my front yard and I started meeting my neighbors and having drinks with them in the evening. And it helps me to feel more part of my community, more part of my neighborhood, and it changed things. And now I have neighbors who have Adirondack chairs in their front yard too. And we started organically talking about these issues, talking about politics, talking about religion, talking about our aging parents and our concerns with them, talking about the things that were changing for us just personally. And you'd be surprised how many people are going through the same or similar things as you.
Yeah, really. I mean, and that's a part of that sandwich generation, thinking about those younger than you and your family, those older than you and your family, and then your own issues as well that are affecting you uniquely as well.
Right. Yeah, it can be really difficult. I mean, we're often caught in this situation where we're raising children and they're having struggles as well, in addition to taking care of our parents, which is always a concern. My dad's always top of mind for me as well. And, he lives in a different state as me too, which is like a whole nother level of complication of trying to take care of your parents. So not that he even needs it. Sorry, Dad. But, it is one of those things where it's, what does aging look like now? What does my life look like now? What should I focus on? And I think we're constantly sort of juggling all these roles in our life. And it can be hard to prioritize ourselves. It can be hard to prioritize our experience and to better understand what's going to make us happy, what's going to make us feel fulfilled, what's going to give us a sense of purpose again.
Yeah, and that sense of purpose, I think, is what keeps us all going, when we feel a sense of purpose. Okay, that is maybe one important point to help us through midlife. Give us maybe 4 other major points that you think would help people in midlife to avoid it becoming a crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, part of it is talking to other people when you start experiencing these things and reaching out to the community, your neighborhood, your relatives, your friends, and sharing the things that you're going through. Take the stigma out of it. Take the bias out of it. This is just a normal part of life and a very normal part of reacting to normal real world constraints. Like, it's not your fault. It's not some personal kind of failing. Everyone goes through some aspect of this. And the other thing I'd like to share is reframe this for yourself. Suspend this belief that you only have a limited amount of time to achieve certain things and that you have to be at a certain point in your life in order to feel successful or that you're purpose driven. I had an aunt who got her undergraduate degree in her 70s. Aww. It's never too late. If you want to do something, do it. The only one who's holding you back is you.
I think that is an excellent way to end this interview. Thank you so much for your time. This was a great conversation. I think this hits home for so many people.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We'll have to have you back again. It is 2:12, everyone, and there are several different things going on. Let me stay here close to home first and foremost and take you to our picture from our chopper. We're up over a house fire. This is in Wilmette, and you can see that smoke pouring out of that home there as we give you a look kind of around. It's a fairly large home here, and it looks like you can see the firefighters right there on the left-hand side of your screen and right there going into a window. It looked like on the left-hand side at one point in time they were just pouring the water, but right now it does look like they're trying to get into the structure, but it looks like there's some construction going on at this particular home. I don't know if the home is in the process of being built or if there are some renovations going on. There's more of the firefighters working on the left-hand side of the actual structure, and you can see more burn, more of the char around that window right there as they're on top of the roof there, or a secondary roof for this particular home. Again, don't know if the full home was under construction or just maybe they were doing some additions to the home here, but a significant fire again there. This is in the 2200 block of Kenilworth Avenue with several departments responding to this particular fire there, and looks at the very least, in terms of them having a lighter kind of smoke coming out. Maybe they've gotten the better portion of this, so I haven't seen any flames actually pouring out of the home, but definitely a large size fire that was taking place there that they would have to call out for some extra help in this area again of Wilmette. Our best to the firefighters and anyone there connected to the home. Don't know if anyone is actually in the home. That may be why so many of the firefighters are working from the outside. There may not be anyone in the home, but we don't have any information as to what caused this fire and whether any injuries have been connected to it. So at this point in time, not knowing that, just hoping that the firefighters will be safe in their efforts to get this fire fully out there at that home again in the 2200 block of Kenilworth Avenue. As they continue to work on that, let me take you out to the East Coast here, Montgomery County, Maryland, where we have word of a school shooting that's taken place. We know that at least one person was shot inside of this school that we're looking at here from this vantage point of a chopper. There is significant law enforcement presence here. This is the Thomas S. Wooten High School in Montgomery County, Maryland, where this breaking news is happening at this moment. Again, one confirmed person shot inside of the school. Haven't released much more information as to who that person was. So we don't know whether this was a student or whether it was a faculty member, and we don't know their condition at this point in time either. This is still fairly early in this situation happening there, but the campus has been put on a lockdown. Again, heavy police presence in this area, as you would expect anytime shots are fired in or near a school. This is, let me see, was first called out about an hour ago to police, as they are now on the scene investigating here. Haven't said whether the shooter has been located. That's another big point. They have not said whether the shooter has been located. But we do know that one person has been shot and that the school is on a lockdown. They sent out a notification, of course, to people in that area before the lockdown went into place. Again, we don't know whether the person shot at this Thomas S. Wooten High School was a student or a faculty member, but really, you know, just hearing that one person was shot in a school building is enough to cause extreme concern. And the fact that we do not know whether the person who fired the weapon has been located. So another developing situation that we're staying on top of as well. As we are looking at these different breaking news situations, back here at home, we also have Governor Pritzker, who is speaking at that centennial anniversary event for Route 66. I told you about this. He's standing there, may say a few things a little bit later on in the program, but let's listen into a bit of where they are in the program at this point in time.
Birthday of our mother, the Mother Road, Route 66. Route 66 is so much more than a highway. It's a place where generations of families and friends have made memories now for 100 years. Visitors from all over the world come to see Route 66, and we're ready to welcome them and give them ways to make memories. That's thanks to the incredible towns, local businesses, and organizations that help keep the spirit of the road alive, and many of you are here today in the audience. Thank you for your collaboration, and thanks for that spirit. There are so many cool attractions along Route 66. We're standing here at one of them right now. And many of these have been built up in partnership with DCEO grant dollars. In the last 5 years, as Governor Pritzker said, we have invested $19 million across the state to build up various attractions along the road that will enhance visitor experiences already happening, and we're preserving historic assets. So, you may wonder what 2026 has in store, and I'm going to tell you about some of the new projects that'll be coming this year that you can start looking forward to. You may have heard the penny is like going away. Well, there's going to be a 12-foot penny in Lincoln, Illinois that's going to become a roadside attraction, so you can look forward to that. And here in Granite City, President Lincoln will also be represented, as the governor mentioned, with a new towering 14-foot statue. Springfield's famous giant slide at the Illinois State Fairgrounds will be getting a fresh look for the Route 66 Centennial. Joliet is transforming part of the old Joliet prison grounds into a baseball field for events, which represents the long history of organized baseball that's been played at the prison. Also in Joliet, they're doing a lot. I see you, Bob. 15 to 20 foot Goodyear tire tower at the ChicagoLIVE Speedway. So that'll be really cool. And these are only some of the projects, by the way. This is the last one I'm going to mention, but a massive American Eagle sculpture in Lexington, Illinois, near Bloomington, crafted from donated and foraged materials. So there'll be lots of fun announcements to come on all the other projects, but those are some of the highlights. So I'm officially challenging everyone to get out and explore the 92 different communities along the Illinois stretch of Route 66, from Chicago to Joliet, through Wilmington, Pontiac, Bloomington, Lincoln, Springfield, Litchfield, Edwardsville, Collinsville, Granite City. So many great options. You can visit enjoyillinois.com. That's our Illinois Office of Tourism website for more trip ideas and to build out your itinerary. So just find a way to celebrate Route 66 this year. I think we've given you a lot of ideas. Now to tell us a little bit more about how the celebration will be extending to the Illinois State Fair, I'm pleased to welcome the Director of the Illinois Department of Agriculture, Jerry Costello.
Thank you so much, Katie.
We were listening in there to some of the projects that they are getting ready to put into place for this year-long centennial celebration of Route 66, a historic roadway for so many reasons that began in our state. You always hear, the old song, get your kicks on Route 66. There's going to be a 12-foot penny roadside attraction in Lincoln, a 14-foot statue in Granite City. That's where they were holding that particular celebration, where they were making the announcements. The state fairgrounds are getting an upgrade. The old Joliet prison, they're doing some things there, as well as having a 15 to 20 foot tire tour at the Speedway. And then they talked about an American Eagle sculpture that's going to be made from donated materials. And just eagles are so regal, and of course our national treasure. If you watched even the Super Bowl yesterday, one of the best, in my opinion, but in so many others' opinions as well, one of the best ads was from Budweiser with the Clydesdale and the eagle, and just kind of sheltering it from the storm and helping it to grow up and then spread its wings and fly. First time I saw it, I had tears in my eyes, but a really beautiful commercial that they had. And so we're going to have a very beautiful sculpture that's going to be made of donated materials. They highlighted the fact that, of course, 92 different communities sit on or near Route 66 that you can explore during this year. Many are going to be doing some very special things, and you'll be able to find out more at enjoyillinois.com. That is continuing on, but Illinois Senator Dick Durbin is speaking on the House floor, so we want to go ahead and listen in to what he has to say here.
Hit her 5 times. 5 times they shot her. A CBP agent during the Trump administration's Operation Midway Blitz. 5 times she's lucky to be alive. Ms. Martinez described that moment in her opening statement. She said, "I struggle with the memories of every day, the shots ringing out and the burning sensations as the bullets ripped through my skin and body." What crime is she guilty of? Taking spare clothing to her church on a Saturday morning. Good enough for ICE to fire away. The fact that Ms. Martinez is alive today after being shot 5 times is a miracle. I told her as much. But immediately after the shooting of Mr. Martinez, the agent, I won't say his name, we know what it is, the agent of CBP, a 23-year veteran, went on his cell phone and bragged about his shooting abilities in private text to fellow agents. He wrote, and I quote, "I fired 5 rounds and she had 7 holes in her body. Put that in your book, boys." He was so proud of himself. He shot this woman, this 30-year-old Montessori teacher, 5 times. What happened to the van that they allege she rammed into, causing the shooting incident? Mysteriously, it disappeared from the scene. The ICE van was taken away. Well, where would they take the ICE van? They took it to Maine, 1,000 miles away from Chicago. Why Maine? That happened to be where the agent lived. But it also was an effort to cover up the actual evidence of what happened that day. You see, there was no indication on the van, the body of the van, that she rammed into it, and she did not. There was no evidence whatsoever. But they removed the evidence. So what happened when they brought the charges in court against Miramar Martinez for ramming into the ICE van and for defying the agents? What happened to those charges? They were all dropped. 5 times that woman was shot on the streets of Chicago, and when it came to pressing charges, the government dropped all charges against her. Miss Martinez, a teaching assistant to little kids, spoke of the trauma she continues to carry with her. Quote, "The physical scars will always be there in the mornings and evenings. When I get dressed and I stare at my body, I'm now permanently disfigured by the 5 bullet holes." She continued, quote, "There will be time this summer when I head to the beach with my dogs and family. They'll be there when I get down on the floor with the students. That shooting will be with her the rest of her life." They dropped all charges. They removed the van that was involved in this incident 1,000 miles away and repainted it. Does Ms. Martinez sound like the worst of the worst? Does she sound like a murderer, a rapist, a terrorist, criminally insane? Of course not. Why are we letting this happen in America? For goodness sakes, the Constitution is clear. There are guarantees people have of their own freedom and liberty. My friends on the other side of the aisle look past that. They don't want to talk about it. I'm afraid I can't stop talking about it because what happened to her is totally unjust. So now we're trying to change the scene. We're doing this because what happened to her must stop. That's why Senate Democrats are setting to rein in ICE and CBP. Last week, leaders Schumer and Jeffries laid out our reforms to federal immigration enforcement in writing. All we're asking is that ICE and other federal immigration agents adhere to reasonable standards to maintain trust, safety, and accountability in our communities. So what specifically are we demanding? First, stop these roving patrols. The United States is a nation governed by the rule of law. Government agents cannot indiscriminately round up people without probable cause, and they can't break down the doors of someone's home and disappear them without a judicial warrant. Did you see the video in Minneapolis when they broke down the door of one of these families? The man was taking a shower. He wrapped a towel around himself and in freezing weather was dragged out to the ICE vehicle. Turns out they knocked down the wrong door. They identified the wrong person. They crashed his door, invaded his home, and had no basis for doing so whatsoever. Government agents cannot indiscriminately round up people without probable cause, and they can't be breaking down the door of your home. There is an amendment to the Constitution which was written specifically to protect us from this sort of government behavior. Second, there needs to be accountability, including new use of force standards that allow local law enforcement to participate in investigating complaints of excessive force by immigration agents. Do you think if there was an investigation of the shooting of Miramar Martinez, that they'd allow the vehicle that was involved, ICE vehicle involved, to be removed 1,000 miles away from Chicago and repainted before any hearing? Of course not. And there should be no immigration enforcement operations at sensitive locations like hospitals, schools, churches, courts, and polling places. Finally, we're asking that body cameras be mandatory and masks come off. Masks off, cameras on. Virtually every professional law enforcement department in my state and the nation has accepted that standard, all except for ICE. They want to be secret police, secret paramilitary, and they want to wear masks to hide their identity. What are we doing in this country? Democrats are united in our calls for these common sense reforms. The American people back us up on every single one of them. This week, we need the Republicans to work in good faith to get the deal done. In the meantime, I want to note something. Secretary Noem, she's been on television a lot, hasn't she? Paid ads as well as her own appearances. She has not appeared once before the Senate Judiciary Committee in the last year. When I've asked repeatedly of the chairman of that committee to bring her in for an accountability session, he's tried with no luck. She says she's too busy to appear before the Senate Judiciary Committee and explain the lethal mismanagement of her agency and the damage that's being done. She says now she may come in a few weeks if she's not too busy, I might add, and if she still happens to be the secretary of that department. The administration must end this aggressive immigration enforcement surge and mass deportation campaign. ICE and federal agents need to play by the same rules as professional police forces across America. That's the bottom line. If your police force in your town and your state can do its job without wearing a mask on the job, can do the job with a video camera recording what actually happened at an event, why in the world are these federal agencies treated any differently? Why are they given special privileges? So they can arrest 2% of the people that they're looking for? That's not a very enviable record. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
All right, everyone. So listening in there just for a few moments of Senator Dick Durbin's comments on the floor as he was speaking about changes the Democrats are pushing for when it comes to the Trump administration's immigration efforts, and more specifically, the exact things that they're looking for, again, is they're really protesting that these things should be changed in order for a budget to go forward. Remember, this is still a sticking point for them as negotiations go on. One, they want warrants to be mandatory. If you've heard about many of the different raids that have taken place in our area and beyond, this has become a bigger talking point about raids, and that warrants need to be issued from a judge, just like any other law enforcement agency. One of the things that federal agencies will say is that, especially for these ramped up immigration efforts, is that if they wait for a warrant, they may have waited too long, because sometimes with the judicial system that warrant might take time. Other law enforcement agencies, though, have to wait for a warrant in order to be able to go in and do these raids. So that was one of the things the Democrats are looking for that he spoke about. Also, they want some new use of force standards, and he specifically talked about Morimar Martinez from right here in our area. She testified on Capitol Hill last week. By the end of the week, a judge in our area ruled that, and it is a federal judge, but here in Chicago, ruled that the evidence from her case can be released. Why? Because she is being kind of persecuted in the court of public opinion as to what took place with her, her interaction with federal authorities on the southwest side back when Operation Midway Blitz was really at its peak. August, September, October, she was involved in an incident with federal authorities. They believed that she was following them and that she caused a collision between their car and hers. She says that's not the case, but a CBP officer shot her 5 times. She has come out and talked about all of the different places where she is now physically scarred, and that's on top of the emotional wounds from this situation. When it went to court, there were very disturbing things outside of these physical, the physical aspect of this that were brought up in court. 2 of the biggest that resulted in the charges being dropped at the end of the day from the federal authorities. First and foremost, that the CBP officer, there was a record of him bragging to the other officers about shooting her, that he shot 5 times and she had 7 holes, and that they should be proud of that. That was one of the things that was very hard to hear, but it was not the only time that text messages between federal officers who were involved in Operation Midway Blitz came up in federal court in cases that ended up being dismissed. So that was one of the things. Also, the fact that evidence was taken out of state. The vehicle that the federal authorities said Marmar Martinez rammed was taken from here in Chicago to Maine, where that officer was originally from. And the federal judge had to ask for it to be brought back because obviously it's evidence in a federal case that shouldn't have been taken out of our area and especially, tampered with in any type of way before they could actually go to court. And so with those things happening, again, the charges were ultimately dropped, and Senator Dick Durbin was using this as an example of use of force standards needing to change. This is also a new, renewed call, not just from Marmar Martinez testifying last week on Capitol Hill, but also, of course, coming after the 2 fatal incidents, 3 shootings total, but 2 fatal and 3 total shootings that took place during Operation Metro Surge in Minnesota. One of the other things they're asking for masks that are on agents to be taken off. Now, the Trump administration will tell you that the masks are on because many of these agents who are working as a part of the raids are being doxxed. That in order to protect themselves and their families, that they're wearing the masks. But there is also the flip side of that people are feeling like if you are doing something upstanding, if you're really a part of an operation, you should be able to have your face out just like anyone else who would be targeted by you during it. And the fact that cameras need to be on. And this is something that the federal administration, the Trump administration, has already acquiesced on, that cameras, body-worn cameras, were sent to Minnesota for all of the agents, even though they're doing a drawdown. So there were like 3,000 agents as a part of Operation Metro Surge that began at the beginning of January. They've done a drawdown. There's still maybe 2,000, but it's less than the original 3,000. And that cameras, body-worn cameras, need to be on all of those agents. So those are the things that Democrats are pushing for right now. Obviously, this is as they continue to negotiate budgets moving forward, but also as we are now in an election year in 2026, looking at these midterms, things that they believe in talking more about and raising more concerns about that people will resonate with. We shall see. It's 2:36 though, and let's go back to a view from the chopper. You can see here firefighters there. Now, this is Chicago Ridge. The last time that we took you to a view from our helicopter, we were in Wilmette. Okay, so we have moved around a bit, but this is to more firefighters hard at work on a house in the area. This is Chicago Ridge, where we're seeing this activity right now, and you can see the ladder on top of the house, but more of the firefighters that are going into the house here. Don't have much information about what's taking place here or exactly where this is. But you can see there are several vehicles and several first responders that are there, again, using those water lines to try to get this fire out in this area, again, in Chicago Ridge. So if we get more information about what's going on there, as always, hoping that there's no one in the home and that our firefighters as well are okay, but we don't have any information about whether there are any injuries or anything else going on at this particular location, just that they're on a fire, and hopefully that they will get that out soon. But if we get any information about injuries or anything of that nature, we'll come back and bring you that. We'll pass that along to you. It's about 2:38 though. Let's take a quick break. Give us 2 minutes and we'll come back. right, welcome back, everyone. It's been a busy afternoon, but we're moving on with our conversations now. It's 2:40, and there were so many different Super Bowl ads that kind of took your mind and on many different things. I mean, product placement is key when it comes to the Super Bowl because there are so many ads, right? And some of them we love. They make us feel warm and fuzzy on the inside. Some of us had us like, huh? I don't even understand that. Some of them maybe had us thinking about bigger conversations that need to be had in society. But one of them about the Ring doorbell cameras has now caused a little pushback. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. They introduced a new feature that maybe people aren't embracing so well. So Callie Schroeder, who is with Epic Senior Counsel, she's the director of AI and Human Rights Program, Global Privacy Council as well for the Electronic Privacy Information Center, joining me now to talk about the new ad and the new backlash that Ring has brought about. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so this was really couched in what happens when an animal gets out. And it was, nice from the standpoint of many of us have been through that at some point in time when you maybe let the front door, it's cracked and an animal, cat or dog is able to get out. And it takes us through the imagery of, all right, maybe 15, 20 years ago, going through the neighborhood trying to put up flyers, but now having the ability to use a new feature with Ring where it would just kind of alert other cameras in the area, like yours would connect to others and look for the animal in the neighborhood. What would be so wrong with that?
The framing of Search Party, the feature that Ring is advertising to help find missing pets, the framing of it as looking for pets is on purpose. It's because this is the best possible use case scenario. Of course, we want to help find missing animals, and of course, we're worried about that. I think the reason this struck such a chord on social media is because it really is not a big jump to think, well, Ring announced that they have a facial recognition rollout last fall. They also announced that they have a partnership with Flock, which is a license plate reading service that tracks drivers. They also have a partnership with Axon, which is a evidence gathering and canvassing tool. So I think that it's a combination of people seeing this benign presentation and then connecting the dots to all of the ways this could be misused or expanded into other areas.
Mm-hmm. And so, yes, it is. I mean, people have really taken off with the conversation about the what ifs, but they did couch it in something that would make you feel like, oh, that's a great idea, right? And that's if you miss the bigger picture in terms of the other things. But isn't that kind of with all technology? Like, sure, it could be used for good. It could also be used for nefarious purposes.
I think that is a very common thread with a lot of technology companies. You see it in this case, when it comes to looking for missing pets, but you see it in a lot of other cases presenting things like, well, we need to protect children, or, well, it'll help solve crimes. There's always some framing that makes it seem appealing or like it's a good use case, and they kind of slide right over how it could be misused in other cases.
Mm-hmm. And especially, like you said, given the other announcements that they've made, and they've all been spaced out, so maybe people aren't thinking about the overall growth that it's essentially at the, I mean, if you look at it all of it on paper, and you say, oh, wait a minute, they're able to do this, they're able to do that, this sounds like Big Brother. When if you're spacing it out, hearing about it in the right terms, then it seems like something that people would, of course, welcome.
Absolutely. And it also is very intentional that it's in this piecemeal way. For most people, you're living your life, you're doing your job, you're taking care of your family. You're very busy, and you don't necessarily have time to breathlessly wait for every separate announcement that Ring or Amazon are dropping. and you wouldn't necessarily know what all of them mean either. Like, a lot of people aren't aware of what Flock is or what Axon is. They just hear a tech company is partnering with a tech company and don't really think about how that expands into their lives or how it could affect them. And they shouldn't necessarily have to. This is not me saying that people are ignorant. This is me saying people are busy, and tech companies know that. And that's why they frame things the way they do. It makes it very hard to track what's going on. And that's part of why, for people that work in this space, like, this is my full-time job, tracking what's going on with these companies, it's really refreshing seeing that there was such a strong public reaction to something that we've been very worried about for a while, which is law enforcement partnering with Ring, which is essentially a lot of tiny surveillance cameras all around the neighborhood, and not having a lot of transparency into where and how and with what justification they are accessing that footage.
Yeah. So on the lighter side of things, yeah, if law enforcement can partner with Ring, and something happens bad in your neighborhood, if someone targets your home, or your family, it's helpful. It could be helpful, but it could also, obviously go in a different direction. The president for the Ring technology, which is just a part of Amazon, says that they found 99 dogs in 90 days with Search Party. So yes, it could be a wonderful thing. It could help people, very much so. But there are a lot of other possibilities here too. Were you surprised by the instant reaction that people immediately did kind of catch on to, like, wait a minute now?
I was a little surprised. It's easy when there's something that is meant to be heartwarming, like finding lost pets, that strikes a chord in that particular way. And I was really interested to see that people immediately connected the dots on surveillance. Not to immediately get too political, but I do think it's also a reflection of what people see in the news already and how surveillance and technology is being used or misused to track people in ICE and immigration contexts. So I think that with that presence of mind and with that environment, maybe it came, the surveillance aspect came to people's mind a little faster.
Sure. The scope, yeah, I could see that. The context that you even put it in. I mean, that was not a far thought from many people's minds, even in the Super Bowl, what is going on in society right now. So yeah, maybe that is a part of why people connected the dots so quickly. What do you think, do you think there will be any type of, maybe we should walk this back a bit for Ring?
I think it's possible. I went to their website, and I do think it's interesting how carefully they're framing this feature. So they go out of their way to emphasize that it is currently built only to track pets, that it is an opt-in system, that even if your Ring doorbell does catch what it thinks is a missing pet, it's still your choice whether to share that footage or not. I thought that framing was very interesting. I believe that they see what some of the problems are and are trying to kind of get in front of those arguments and get around them. The problem is that may be genuinely how they're setting up Search Party, or it could be that it really is built explicitly for pets. It really is very voluntary and privacy oriented. The problem is Amazon and Ring have a track record. And so I think despite their best efforts, it's very hard to get away from the reputation and the history of collaboration with law enforcement and some really privacy invasive practices in their technology.
But is it the genie is out of the bottle? I mean, are we looking at it from a lens of, I mean, if we can't really roll this back at this point in society?
I think a lot of technology gets framed that way, and it can absolutely feel that way. And a lot of tech that comes out, you feel like you really don't have a choice about whether it's suddenly embedded in everything or whether there's cameras around or recordings. But there are still things people can do to push back if they're uncomfortable. Number one, if it works for you, don't get a Ring doorbell. There are lots of other surveillance cameras that you can use if you're worried about security. There are analog security cameras that you can use. There's companies with slightly better track records or a little more control over your data. There's also just taking a real look at your particular risk matrix. So let's say the problem I'm looking at is I want to be able to find my pet if they go missing. You can chip your pet. There's a lot of things like Nextdoor that have other neighborhood watch type situations to them that maybe don't involve a camera tracking everything that goes on in front of your home. There are some individual choices you can make, but one of the biggest and best motions is societal shifts like the one we're seeing on social media in response to this ad. It's very powerful for Amazon to see that there's a very strong negative reaction to the possibility of open surveillance and to misuse of the technology. And hopefully that changes some of their internal perspective and dialogue about where they go next with the technology.
All right. Well, we'll see where things go from here for sure, but lots of questions as we go down this road. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay. Everyone, it's 2:51. Our chief meteorologist just walked in, so give us a quick 2 minutes and we'll be right back with more on what we can expect with our weather this week. Here with me now. All right, now you can hear me. I'm like, is it just me? No, I don't think you can hear me. Our chief meteorologist, Emily Walls, is here with me now, and marked change today outside.
Yeah, you know, it feels almost spring-like to us.
It feels like we're making progress.
We're making progress. Now, it's still cold. We still have temps that are in the 30s, but average for this time of the year is right around 34 degrees. Today, we're sitting in the mid to upper 30s, so we're doing pretty well. We are above average, and again, it's all about perspective, right? If you think back to earlier this month, of course.
Negative 35.
Yes, in January, it was a pretty brutal start to 2026, but we're making strides, everybody. And this week is the week that we're really going to feel it. So we've kind of been teasing this week since the very beginning of February. Remember, we were talking about that pattern flip-flop that's going to be taking place, and we're starting to see that underway now. So the next couple of days, we're looking at temps that are going to be above average. I think we stay above average nearly every single day, if not indeed every single day this week. And then even this weekend into next week, that's when we really could be tapping into some warm air, because I know it's not on your 7-day, but next week we are looking at what is likely to be a pretty large ridge moving over the area, meaning that the jet stream is going to take off toward the north. which
Okay.
allows us to tap into the warmer air that's off to our south.
Uh-huh.
So there are plenty models that by Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, bringing us into the 50s. Monday is looking like we could potentially be in the 50s. And I don't want to get your hopes up here, but my hopes
Get them
are
up, please. Get them up.
My hopes are up. There are some models that are actually pushing in 60s to the west and southwestern sections of Chicagoland next week, Monday and Tuesday. So really going to be something to watch, something to look forward to. But in the meantime, things look pretty good this week. It should be a really easy week for us to get through. We're not looking at any major storm systems coming through. Kind of every other day, we're back and forth with the cloud cover or sunshine, and temperatures are looking great. I think tomorrow we're in the 40s, and then we're going to be in the mid to upper 30s Wednesday and Thursday, so slightly cooler there. Same thing going into your Friday. But then this upcoming weekend, there is a small chance that we could be seeing a little bit of precipitation based on the temperature profiles. If some of that precip is coming through during the morning, it could be in the form of snow. But then if it's coming through during the day, then it's going to be more so in the form of rain. So just kind of a rain-snow mix going to be possible at times. I'm almost kind of optimistic, though, that I think a lot, if not all of it, will stay to our south, though. I'm not overly concerned about the weekend. At this point, if you do have plans to be out and about over the weekend, don't change
Valentine's Day.
Yes, don't change your plans yet. Just keep an eye on the forecast. I'm not changing my plans. For all of us that pick out our outfits early, we already know what we're wearing.
For Valentine's?
Yeah.
Already?
I took my daughter out. We got, matching dresses. We're going on a date with Dad. It's going to be very nice. And the weather, I think, is going to cooperate with that high of, 40. It's going to be nice.
I like it. I like where we're going here. It's nothing like we were talking earlier with Tina Wynn, and she's out in Arizona, and of course she's like, I need the AC.
Yeah.
It's so hot.
So
we're not nowhere near that.
We're nowhere near that, but that warmer air mass, that's the pattern flip-flop that I'm talking about here. So over the western half of the U.S., that's where the jet stream is taking off toward the north. So all that warm air can come up from the south. Well, that's starting to move in our direction. So you can kind of think of the jet stream as just like a wave that looks like this across the United States. Depending on if that jet stream goes north of your location, that's when we're warm. If it dies south, then that's when we're colder. So across the western half of the U.S., they've been roasting. It's been very, very warm, very much above average. Now, are we going to have hot weather? No, of course, this far north.
We wouldn't want it just yet.
But
Not
it's
hot.
going to be, I think, pleasant this weekend, next week. And I also want to point out, the way that we're gradually warming up this week is a really, really good thing because we have a lot of snow. The ground is still very frozen, down to, I believe, about 13 inches deep. So it's going to take a while. Now, if we had this warm up that came in all of a sudden, we'd have a lot of melting and we'd be dealing with a lot of flooding of low-lying areas, a lot of ice jams on the river. So hopefully this week is going to be a really good transition zone leading into those 50s next week.
Okay. All right. Well, you heard it from the expert herself. So we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's all
Looking
good
forward to
news
it
out of my
all.
department today.
Well, we like good news from your department.
Yeah, it's been a
especially.
while.
Yeah. Thank you, Emily. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Let's talk about what we have coming in this final hour together here on Chicago Live for Monday. We are going to be talking about AI and roadways before we get out of here. Obviously, there's new technology being used for so many things, and if you were with us in the first hour, we talked about even like where things are going for the tollway. At some point in time, AI becomes a part of the discussion for almost every topic. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to be talking with a captain. We were just speaking moments ago with our chief meteorologist, and she was talking about ice jams and the way that we're warming up outside, maybe preventing some of the flooding issues that could come from a very quick warm up outside. We're going to talk with a captain who is getting ready to go back out on the water, but about the water that he's been navigating over the last few weeks. Really interesting story that he has, and that video will air on our later newscast today about his time out on Lake Michigan and beyond. Can't wait to hear more about that. But first, we're going to start here with an issue. When we speak of waterways and many other things, I did not think, quite honestly, would be an issue, but it turns out it actually can be. State Representative Kimberly Dubuclet from here in Chicago is joining me to talk about proposing a ban on body glitter. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, and I'm really excited to talk about this bill.
People would, on hearing it from face value, you would think like, oh, you're just taking the joy out of the world. Why do we have to target body glitter? But what is the reason behind it?
So my bill, HB 4175, is a ban on microplastics, which is essentially what glitter is made out of. And what happens is these microplastics that makes glitter, these microplastics end up in our waterways and ultimately in our bodies. So if you've heard a term called PFAS, or everyone's been talking about microplastics that end up in our body, and there's been statistics that say humans eat about a credit card's worth of plastic every week. We don't want that. It can be a hormone disruptor. It can cause all kinds of cancers and problems. So I'm just trying to get ahead of other ways that microplastics and other pollutants can enter our waterways. I was a former commissioner of the Water Reclamation District, and what the Water Reclamation District is that they take the wastewater. So when you take a shower, say you take a shower and you have glitter on your body, it goes down the drain, and then we pump this wastewater out to the water reclamation plants, and then they clean it to make sure that this dirty water doesn't make its way back into Lake Michigan, where there's no way to clean out the byproducts of glitter. So what ends up happening is that byproduct of glitter could end up back into our water system.
Yeah, and even cause issues for, the animals that depend on clean water sources.
Yes. So, one of the things I want to say is we can take the sparkle without leaving the permanent plastics behind, and also that this would be phased in. So it really wouldn't take effect until 2029. And as a Great Lakes state, which Illinois is, we should do as much as we can to reduce the microplastics in our waterways and in our drinking water, starting with what's intentionally added, and what's intentionally added are products like glitter. I have a daughter, a performer, and she said, "Mom, I use glitter when I perform." I'm like, "There's other things you can use. There's other ways you can make yourself, glitter and dazzle without using a microplastic-based product."
And did you look? I'm assuming that knowing, especially having a young lady in your house, knowing immediate reaction that you could get from this, you came up with some alternatives for people. Because Taylor Swift will be back around here at some point in time, and others, Chapel Roan and many others who will be back, and people are going to want something to sparkle.
Yeah, so they have some mineral-based products it's like shimmer pigments. There's also something called synthetic mica, and I think the official name of that is called fluorogolite. And then there's pearl pigments. And then also silica-based pigments. So there are other alternatives other than using plastic-based products that can be used to make us shimmer and shine.
And you mentioned the fact that there are tons of microplastics. I'm glad that you all didn't see my reaction when you said we're all eating about a credit card's worth of plastic a week. But if there are so many microplastics out there. How did glitter become your target?
Well, before I joined the General Assembly, there were other. There used to be this microbeads that were used in products when you cleanse your face to kind of help you exfoliate. And those also had PFAS and microplastic, and they banned that. And so what I'm trying to do is to get to as many sources as possible to help ban plastics entering our waterways and entering our systems.
Okay, so you've introduced this. As you said, it could be a while before this would go into effect, 2029. Before it would go into effect, so there's some time there. What feedback are you getting, and do you see this being readily accepted? I mean, microplastics are so readily available. Just having something like this, how do you get control of something like this?
Well, we're trying to get at the source versus at the end. So I'm sure I'm going to get some pushback about this bill because we all like our glitter and we all like to shine. But as I try and explain, the glitter ban it's very narrow. It's only about non-biodegradable glitter, plastic glitter that's found in personal care products. So there will be other ways to sparkle. And it's the kind that, as I mentioned earlier, you rinse you wash or rinse or take a shower and it gets taken down our drain and into our waterway system. So it's not everything. It's just a biodegradable glitter.
Yeah.
Or non-biodegradable glitter, pardon me.
You have mentioned some of the things that have been banned in prior years. Aside from the body glitter, what are some other things that you're looking at moving down the road?
Well, I'm personally just focused on this right now, but I'm sure that there will be other products that come up. You know, one of the other things that the state of Illinois did prior to me joining the General Assembly is when you go to hotels and you used to get single-use products for your shampoo, conditioner, body wash. So we banned the use of those single-use products for similar reasons, and now we have the big pumps that are in each of the hotel bathrooms, just to kind of reduce plastic waste in that regard as well.
You know, we were talking just a few moments ago off camera about how often as a society, like, we will advance very quickly on certain things, and then it takes a while before we start to look at it and say, wait, it causes this, it does this, it did, you know, it created this, with a more surgical approach when we're looking back at things and all of the things that come from it. When it comes to personal care products, a lot has been coming up in terms of conversation when it comes to the things that could happen to our bodies as a result of them, or the environment.
Yeah, some of the ingredients, some of our personal care products really aren't good for our bodies, but you know, that also has to be tackled at some point.
Well, body glitter is the conversation now. We'll see where things go. Tell me the process. If people are unaware, I mean, you've introduced it, but give us the process from here.
So right now it's House Bill 4175. Once I decide to submit it to our House Rules Committee, they will assign it to a committee. Then I have to go before the committee and try and get it passed out of committee, whatever committee they assign it to, before it goes to the General House floor. And then once it passes the House, it has to go over to the Senate and go through the same process. And if it passes out of the Senate and the House, then it goes to the governor for signing.
All right. And then just maybe on a final note here, because you were on the Water Reclamation District, what are your thoughts on Lake Michigan? I mean, what are we looking at when we look at this beautiful lake? What do you see?
Yeah, we are so blessed to be living by the Great Lakes and have a somewhat unlimited source of drinking water. The Great Lakes, which encompasses Lake Michigan, supplies 70% of the United States freshwater supply. So it's something that we definitely have to preserve and protect and make sure pollutants and other forms of garbage don't get in it, so we can protect our freshwater supply here in the United States.
Okay, all right. State Representative Kimberly DuBouclet from right here in Chicago. Thank you so much for your time today. Please keep us updated on this.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, take care.
Bye.
310 right now, and it is true that certain things that may become regular routine for us, when you start to look a little bit closer, they could be damaging. So it will be interesting to see if she's able to take this all the way, and how people feel about it along the way. Let's get in a quick break. Give us 2 minutes, and we'll be right back. All right, it's just about 3:15, everyone, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation because during the Super Bowl, there's so many different things going through your mind, right? Yes, there is the game itself, but without the Chicago Bears in it, we didn't really have a dog in the fight the way we would have if our team had made it all the way. So we're watching the game, wanting to see that. Maybe you're thinking about the players and the different storylines going on, the halftime show, and the other performers from the very start all the way through halftime. There were so many different performers, but maybe it's the stadium itself. Who knows? One thing I like to do during the game is to look at what's trending online so I can see what people are talking about. Obviously, doing what we do for a living, it comes in handy the next day because now we are talking about Google Trends. And I have Christina Basilio, a Google search and trends expert, who is joining me with a more expert way of looking at this. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, so excited to be here and talk about what everyone was thinking about last night.
It is the biggest stage from so many different levels, not just the actual performers that hit the stage, but let's talk about it. What were maybe the general trends that you saw?
Yeah, so every year the Super Bowl is the ultimate national conversation. And as it shouldn't be surprising, some of our top searches, of course, have to do with the players. Some names that probably are familiar are Drake May, the quarterback for the New England Patriots, Stephon Diggs. We assumed he was searched because people didn't feel like he was being utilized enough. But on the winning side of the house, we saw the names like Sam Darnold pop up and Kenneth Walker III, who was the MVP.
Yes.
One of the ones that caught me most by surprise, and I do think it was really because he did such an amazing job, was we saw the question, who is the kicker for the Seattle Seahawks?
That a lot of people thought would be the MVP, the way things were going.
I was one of them. So Jason Myers, he's the kicker. He ended up producing a lot of queries for us around, has kicker ever been an MVP?
Uh-huh.
And unfortunately, it's no. But I thought he had the best chance last night for sure.
He definitely made the kickers proud, you know. He was very instrumental in their win for sure. Kenneth Walker balled out, so I don't want to take anything away from him. But the kicker, that was funny to see more people like, wait a minute, could we see our first kicker MVP? All right, so you all also look at things from a standpoint of just within the U.S., some of the questions that people had during the game. What were some of those?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, people were really interested in who the kicker was. One of the really cool questions that spiked over 1,300% yesterday was who's the youngest coach to win the Super Bowl? So the answer is actually Sean McVay. He was 36 when he won with the Rams a few years ago. But that question, I think, was brought up because people were interested in Mike McDonald.
Yeah.
He's young, he's 38, and he just won. So I think that was something people were really interested in.
For
A couple
sure.
A couple other questions that I saw pop up that caught my eye are, has there ever been a shutout in the Super Bowl?
Oh, because it took them
I
a
didn't know.
while, the Patriots a while to get on that board.
Oh, it did. And I'm pretty sure they were the ones leading that charge, really worried. The good part, no, there has not been a shutout, and that answer has not changed for 2026.
Yeah. All right. So the halftime show, I mean, even before Bad Bunny actually took to the stage, there was so much conversation surrounding this particular performance, and it really has been building for months. What were some of the trending topics surrounding the halftime performer or performance?
So, as you know, Bad Bunny has had an amazing year. So, ahead of the Super Bowl, we saw some really interesting trends around Bad Bunny Grammys, Bad Bunny lyrics. We even saw the question of where's Bad Bunny from, which is, of course, Puerto Rico. But during the Super Bowl and during the halftime, search queries for Bad Bunny hit an all-time high. So, he was really top of mind for people. As far as what was happening in the halftime show, some of the questions we saw were, was the wedding real? And it was, which I thought was so beautiful to see that come to life. Some other questions we saw pop up was that Cardi B or was that Jessica Alba? I think all the cameos and special guests that he had come out were really interesting to people. Yes, it was Lady Gaga and Ricky Martin. And then there was a general question about how many people do we think tuned in. While we don't have certain stats now, they do think it's about 125 million people, which is about as much as we saw last year, too.
Aha. Okay. All right. So no more, no less, but at least still staying in great territory there. What about in terms of the commercials? I keep saying, like, some of the commercials you say, like, oh, this hit it out the park. Some of them, it's like you loved it, but then you couldn't remember who created the commercial, which is kind of a fail for a company. If I can remember the overall commercial, but not who put it out there. Some get a little controversial. Some just make us hungry. I mean, there's so many different thought processes in terms of product placement for the big game.
You're so right. And the top trending commercial searches ran the gambit. I think Mr. Beast should be no surprise. His Salesforce commercial, since he was promising to give away $1 million, that was the most searched commercial that we saw. And then some other ones that really caught my eye were the Goodwill Dunkin' that had that superstar lineup of
one of my
actors in
faves.
it. Yes, it was so good. I felt like I was watching a TV show. But then you have those ones that pull at your heartstrings, right? Like the Lay's Super Bowl potato, when the father was giving the keys to his daughter to take over the farm. And even the commercial where you have to think about what it's like to start a new home and build those memories with your family with the help of Gemini. I am a sucker for a crying commercial. So those are definitely some of my favorites.
Yeah. Loved the the Budweiser commercial with the Clydesdales and the Eagle. That was one of my faves. But yes, the Dunkin' commercial was one of my like honorable mentions, because seeing Kim Whitley, to see like, all right, Fresh Prince, Friends, Family Matters, all of these like great 90s sitcoms all in one commercial. I'm like, this is amazing.
100%. And then all the references to Backstreet Boys
Yes.
too. I think it was really fun. It was really nostalgia. They were looking at those millennials, I think, to get us plugged back in.
Yeah. Were there any surprises to you in terms of something that was trending and you were like, what has people looking at that?
Okay, so one of the funny ones that I noticed was right before the Super Bowl, we pulled the trends around when it comes to food. And the question how to air fry was at an all-time high. So people were getting their menus ready. So things like air fried zucchini chips were top trending and just figuring out what to make for quick snacks. And we
Yeah.
saw that come over into the day of the game too, because we saw spikes for searches of like quick Super Bowl snacks to make. So I think people were just really excited and trying to get their menus ready for the game.
I love it. That's a sweet one for sure. I see here that and I saw this last night when I even looked at the list of trends. Did Green Day already perform? I saw a lot of people that thought Green Day was the halftime. And I'm like, maybe it's because I'm in news. So I knew for almost a year that Bad Bunny was the halftime performer. And there was so much conversation, I thought, about Bad Bunny that it was like, wait a minute. People really thought Green Day was early on. If you were waiting on you missed Green Day.
Yes, that was such a breakout query, and I feel bad for folks who didn't tune in early enough. You can go back on YouTube and watch the performance, because the Green Day performance was to bring out those Hall of Famers and to get people really excited before the game. And what a fun fact that I found out was that Green Day's from the Bay Area, so it was really cool to like see them celebrate locally. But yeah, most people missed their performance because I think they thought it was for the halftime. So what a interesting coincidence.
Yeah, and they did a wonderful job, and I thought the stage for Green Day was phenomenal. I couldn't think of another pre-game performance that was set up like that before.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that. It felt like it was really good to get the energy up, bringing in the players, past players, to really bring in that excitement. But like you said, I think that's the first time I've seen them do it. I hope they do it again or something like it next year.
Ditto, because I think it just overall added to the full diversity of the day. I thought there was something for everyone there. And I thought they did a great job with it overall, the production of the Super Bowl for so many eyes. Thank you so much for going over these trends with me. This is always so interesting to me.
Yes, it's always great. I hope you have a great rest of your day, everybody.
All right, same to you. Take care. Everybody, it's about 3:25. Give us 2 minutes, and then we're going to bring in our boat captain to talk about what's going on Lake Michigan from his vantage point. All right, now everybody, welcome back. We're almost out of here, but before we go, we have a few more really great conversations. And as we talk about maybe warmer days to come, we're also watching like big pieces of ice out on Lake Michigan and many of our waterways around here, and wondering, okay, are we going to have that slow type of warm up that allows the big pieces to just kind of go away on their own? Are we going to have some flooding concerns? What's going to happen from here? Well, our pilots, our captains who are actually out on the waterways can give us more perspective as to what they're seeing, what they've endured and navigated. Captain Terry Haynes is a U.S. federal pilot who lives in Schaumburg, and he had quite the experience just recently, and so I'm really happy that he was able to join us today to talk a little bit more about what he's seeing out there on the water. Thanks for your time.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. Great to be here.
Tell me about your most recent experience.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm the U.S. federal pilot that in this case, it was a Canadian ship. It's owned by Algoma Central Marine. It's the Algoberta. So my job as the federal pilot in District 3 here is to coordinate hand in hand with the captain on board. I'm a retired captain myself, to coordinate with the captain, the deck officers, and with U.S. and Canadian Coast Guard to get these ships through the ice, especially in the Straits of Mackinac, which is up by the Mackinac Bridge, connects Lake Huron and Lake Michigan. And as you know, this has been a tough, cold, brutal winter. So without these Coast Guard assets and all working together as a team, we can get it's essential to get these ships down. In this case, it was to Milwaukee with about 10,000 cubic meters of fuel. So that's enough to fuel about 250 to 275,000 cars.
Wow.
So important to keep these ships moving.
Wow. All right. You get then a view of things that few of us do. Tell me about what you saw out there.
Well, I mean, it was almost like a bridge essentially that the Coast Guard icebreakers, in this case, the Coast Guard cutter Mackinac, but we also have Canadian Coast Guard that assist. And they're breaking that and keeping it open so these ships can get through. And then once they get through the real thick, road essentially that is taken clearly out by the icebreakers. Then once we get into Lake Michigan on the way to areas like Milwaukee and Chicago, we have to look for the giant ice flows that you see right off of the shores of Lake Michigan. So the seaway's closed, so all the ocean ships aren't here now, but these important ships, for example, Canadians bring in all the road salt for Chicago and Milwaukee. That all comes in by ship. And in this case, the tanker, they had a federal pilot on to assist, essentially, to make sure the environment is protected and the safety of the ship and coordination. Great ship, great crew, and it was great to be with them. I'm actually flying to the airport to get on this ship in Sarnia, take another load of gasoline back to Lake Michigan. So we'll do the same thing all over again.
Oh my goodness. Now, give me a perspective. Like, if you have seen this before, tell me like maybe a prior year to what you saw this year. What were the comparisons or what was different this year?
Yes, ma'am. So this year, just like the cold temperatures we've had here in the downtown Chicago and Schaumburg, winter set in quick and it didn't give up and it stayed below freezing. So it's really been probably the worst ice year in 10 years. 2014 was a bad one, but we're talking Lake Erie is almost completely frozen over. Lake Michigan's at, I think, around 30%. Lake Huron is up to 55%. So it's definitely a significant ice year. So without these Coast Guard icebreakers and working together, the ships would be stuck and there wouldn't be salt on the roads and, they wouldn't get the fuel in. So it's a heavy year and we got good temperatures ahead. So hopefully things will improve. And with the ice flows, with so much of it, it's going to keep the lake waters up and, it keeps the evaporation down. So ultimately, it's a good thing, but it'll be tough going when the ocean ships come back in and the Great Lakes ships are out delivering all the products in the spring. There'll be a lot of ice to get through initially. So a significant year.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. I mean, where we're going from here, what starts to go through your mind in terms of weather conditions as we start to see warmer conditions, maybe in the next couple of weeks? What starts to go through your mind?
Well, it's good news. The problem is when the ice is so thick and there's just a simple road that the Coast Guard cuts out for us, it's okay. But when ice melts, then it starts to shift, and then the wind picks up, and then it builds up. You can have ice that just it gets pressurized together. It can go up to 5, 6, 7, 8 feet, and those are wind rows, and it makes it especially hard for the ships to transit. So you'd think when it gets warmer, it's better, but it can be challenging until it really softens up the ice. But at this time of the year, sometimes ice keeps the waves down. You have to remember in Lake Michigan, you can have waves upwards of 25, 26, 27 feet in a true north storm. So very significant. The ships have to navigate that too. So every season has its challenges, but certainly it'll be great to get to summer sailing when we're coming up and down Lake Michigan on the ocean ships that travel the world, that come to Burns Harbor and South Chicago and Milwaukee. Summer sailing is always a nice time to be here, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, summer everything is wonderful after what we go through during the winter time around here, for sure. And thank you to all of you all for using your expertise to help us in so many different ways. What is the time commitment for what you do? What is a day like when you're doing these types of missions?
Yes, ma'am. So this particular one is about a 42-hour trip. So I'm home now. I'll fly to the ship in Canada, and then I'll be on for the 42-hour summer sailing. So probably, if we have to wait for daylight for an icebreaker, again, as the federal pilot, I work hand in hand, and we with the captain, we make decisions on safety. So we may sit in the ice, wait till morning, wait for an icebreaker to escort us. So could be up to 60 hours, and then that mission will be complete, and we're on the call system, so it's a great job to be home with family and then out for these adventures. So being a pilot is definitely a job I really enjoy. It's got a good balance, and you definitely see a lot of things out there, that's for sure.
How did you get into this?
Yes, ma'am. So I went to a maritime academy, and also I've spent over 25 years as a Navy Reserve officer, so I do that piloting as well. I'll go to Spain this March for 2 weeks to learn Navy ships that are in that port. A federal pilots, what we do is we, we're the local experts, and we have knowledge of the areas that we work. So it's always about familiarization. So I started off, I went to a maritime academy, worked my way up, third mate, second mate, first mate, and then captain on the Great Lakes ships, which is a great job. And then was able to retire and become a federal pilot because I'm familiar with these areas. And now I go on the ocean ships. So after coming up on 25 years, it goes quick, but definitely a job I enjoy.
So cool. Thank you so much for your service and sharing your expertise.
Oh, my pleasure, ma'am. Thanks for having me.
All right. You take care, especially on this next trip. Safe travels.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. All right. 335. That is a cool job. I'm sure very difficult, but again, a different perspective. I love just hearing the different perspectives of, again, we might see Lake Michigan, and there are a ton of different jobs connected to Lake Michigan, but hearing about how they're able to do what they do, which is something so totally different from what most people do or even know about, is really interesting. Let's take a quick break. Give us 2 minutes, and we'll be right back. All right, 3:37 now, and I don't know if there's any industry that is not contemplating the positives and negatives, trying to weigh the positives and negatives of AI right now, how it should be used, whether it should be used. All of those things are part of a conversation for pretty much everything right now. Charlie Degliomini is an executive vice president of AI roadway technology for a company called Recourse Systems. He's joining me as we talk about a proposed bill in Congress that is aiming to use AI for the roadways to take us into the future. Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Give me your first thoughts on this proposal.
So, who would have thought bipartisan support for something that's going to help everyday Americans, right? So we're pleasantly surprised by the Roadway Safety Modernization Act. And it's bipartisan support, and it isn't just about new regulations, it's about giving our transportation professionals, the people who monitor our roadways, the tools to ensure that every American who leaves home in the morning makes it back safely at night, and doing that by using AI.
Yeah, and whenever we talk about monitoring, obviously positives and negatives come to the forefront of mind. Yes, this could be super helpful, but no, this could be like facial recognition Big Brother. What's your take on that? I mean, you work for an industry that's fully embraced AI, but do you see how people could be maybe put off by hearing about this for roadways?
Look, there's no question about it. Privacy is always a concern. And when you think about roadways, you think about license plate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody is reading a license plate, that could potentially be tracked back to the owner. What the act is, what the Roadway Safety Modernization Act is something completely different. It has nothing to do with license plate reading. It has everything to do with safety on the roadway. For example, if you've ever seen a traffic management center, you see people looking at screens trying to figure out what is going on the roadway.
Mm-hmm.
Our roadways are dumb, but our cars are very smart,
True.
right? So what this bill is intending to do is to give those transportation management folks almost superhuman power. Instead of looking with their eyeballs, the AI says it's pulling in Waze data, right? It's data that we all see on our phones.
Mm-hmm.
Weather data. It's pulling in connected car data. It's pulling in data from videos from those cameras that are on American highways. And it says, look here, you have a potential problem. It needs to be addressed. And the faster you can get a response to an accident, and in this instance, using Recourse AI, it's up to 9 minutes faster than even a 911 call. So getting the right responders to the right location at the right time, very important. And what AI enhances that. And I don't think if somebody is broken down at the side of the road or, God forbid, involved in an accident with serious injuries, I don't think anyone's going to have a privacy problem getting emergency responders to your location as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of maybe the biggest positive takeaway, that you're seeing there could be fewer accidents, roadway worker deaths, and faster commutes.
That's correct, right? So we're all stuck in traffic all the time. And a lot of times it has to do with accidents on the roadways. So clearing those accidents, that's what's causing us to be late for work and late getting home for dinner, right? So in monitored areas using our Recourse AI, and by the way, this isn't theoretical, we're doing it in states like Texas and Nevada and elsewhere, there's a reduction in response time. And when every second counts, AI acts as that superhuman awareness for emergency responders.
So I know there are many advocacy groups that are cheering you on in these efforts, cheering on this bill that's proposed. But we also just had a conversation about, say, the Super Bowl commercial that introduced Ring's new camera feature. and the immediate backlash they got for people feeling like, wait, you are going way too far with this technology.
It's a fair point, right? We should all be concerned about privacy. It's super important. But when you're looking at data that doesn't have to do with where you cannot track it back to an individual, where your personally protected, privacy protected information is secure, and I don't mean secure just from a cybersecurity perspective, it's not tracked to any single individual. So for example, if the AI says, hey, there's a weather event right here, and we see hundreds of cars that are coming to a stop, through, let's say, the video cameras that are already at the side of the roadway, or we see Waze data that's reporting an incident right away. We take all that information, we put it together. You don't know it's Charlie's car that's involved in the accident, right? You just know that there's an incident there. So from that perspective, if you zoom out a little bit, by the way, the privacy questions are fair and super important, and companies like Recourse Systems work very hard to address that. But everything we're talking about now doesn't track back to any specific individual and his identity.
And how do you take this nationwide? I mean, there's so much roadway out there. Cost. I mean, how do you make this what essentially you need it to be?
Success breeds success. And when you see institutions like the Texas Department of Transportation want to roll this out on a state. Texas, obviously a very big state, one of the biggest states in the union, and they want to roll this out, on a complete basis to all of their districts. When you see that, the next state over thinks about it and says, hey, is this something that we should be looking at too? So the idea that this happens at scale, once you see first adopters come along, and we've already seen those first adopters come along.
Yeah. And how do you, how is it that this would be adopted, but like local law enforcement gets spotted every turn for like flock cameras?
Yeah, once again, this is very, very different from flock, right? Flock has some publicly reported issues about sharing data where it's not supposed to be. But once again, what they're doing is they're sharing your license plate data, right? So you would know it's Charlie's car, and he drives a green car, and he's potentially driving this route every single day, and that could be shared with federal authorities, which I know a lot of states like Illinois has a concern with, and they don't want to have. There's been a loud outcry where they don't want to see that happen. But when you stay away from that license plate data, when you use AI in a more global context, when you keep that personally identified information out of the mix that the technology uses, that's what protects citizens' privacy.
Okay, well, this is going to be very interesting to see. So the bill has been proposed. Where does it go from here?
It's great. It has bipartisan support. Once again, in Washington, we don't hear those words a lot.
Correct.
It will likely end up in the Surface Transportation Act, which will hopefully be passed sometime in September. So fingers crossed, it looks like it's going to happen.
Let's say it gets passed in September. When do you think we'd actually, I mean, obviously with AI, it's not like we would know it's out there, but when do you see this being actually implemented throughout the country?
Yeah, what will happen is that money to use this type of AI, the very type of AI that Recourse has productized and is already deployed, the federal dollars will then flow into state transportation agencies and city transportation agencies, and that's what will kick in after hopefully this is part of the Surface Transportation Act bill that's passed in September.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very interesting indeed. We'll see where things go. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care. It's 3:46, everyone. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be back. All right, 3:48, everyone. I am always excited to hear and to be able to report when people are investing in our youth, investing in our next generation of doctors, lawyers, broadcasters, and so many more professions. And Megan Minot is joining me. She is with A Better Chicago. They are making a huge investment for Chicago scholars. Let's talk a little bit about the investment and this particular, well, these two organizations that are doing great things. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on.
Let's start with A Better Chicago. Tell us about your organization.
Yes, so A Better Chicago is a venture philanthropy that invests in proven nonprofit organizations that are helping young people in Chicago experiencing poverty. So we really invest in what works, and we're focused on helping Chicago students, especially those that are facing the biggest barriers, like getting to and through college.
Yeah, and so many barriers can be alleviated through the funds that you all are, putting into Chicago scholars. That, in a lot of ways, they deal with so many first-generation college students that may not have been shown the way to navigate, to get into college and to be successful from that lens in life. But you all are helping to break some of the barriers.
Yep, absolutely. We know Chicago Scholars has been a partner of ours for a long time. Their work is just so critical in helping students who may not have that level of mentorship or opportunity to be able to really make those deep connections that we know are so important to be able to not only get to college, but stay through college, graduate, and then launch into a successful career.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So we're
did I cut you off? Were you about to say something?
I was just going to say we're so excited to be able to provide this additional investment in their Reach Pathways platform, which is just going to give so many more students opportunity and access.
Talk a little bit about the Reach Pathways.
Yeah, so Reach Pathways, it's their AI integrated technology platform that uses gamified quests, different, online near peer mentorship access, and all sorts of different really cool features to be able to give students like that on-demand support. So they may not always have their counselor or someone that they can talk to through the traditional program, but they have this at their fingertips through their smartphone, through whatever platform they may be using it. So it really opens up that opportunity and access to just many more thousands of students.
Megan, that's huge. That process of getting to college sounds very mundane to people who have watched their parents or grandparents or great grandparents go through it. But when you really don't have any idea of how to navigate it, these are things that are game changers.
Absolutely. It's everything from what colleges should I even look at? What would be a good match and fit for me? How do I, apply for the FAFSA? How do I write my college essay? All these different things, all these pieces that go into it, that you're exactly right. When you haven't had exposure or opportunity to other adults walking you through the process, it can feel so overwhelming. So we know that having those relationships and having that access is just so important.
Yeah. And, props to great counselors out there. I was just at an event last week, and multiple people testified to the difference a school counselor made in their lives. So props to the school counselors. But there's usually how many students in a school and how many counselors. So something like this fills the gap.
Absolutely. And the goal is not to replace that human connection, is to just be able to enhance it, right? And just make that level the playing field so that everyone has that equal access, and you're not waiting You're not, 300th in line, to meet with your college counselor. You have other options to be able to access.
Yeah. There's so many different organizations in the city. How did this particular organization end up at the top of you all's list for a grant?
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned, they've been a partner of ours for a number of years now. We've really believed in their model. They've demonstrated their impact, and so for this challenge grant that we launched back in the summer, we were focused on really investing in what we knew worked and providing deeper investments to organizations that we were already supporting that had a proven track record. So they rose to the top because, again, that proven track record, but also really kind of meeting the moment with technology and thinking about what is it that students are really asking for, what do they need, and what's really going to, move the needle for them. And so I think that innovation piece was just really huge.
Yeah. It really is a difference maker. Again, I love when this particular organization, the Chicago Scholars, when they have their big day with all of the kids that come out and they're, finding out this great information. And so just knowing that they have partners that are going to help them and expanding the world for these young people is just so heartwarming. Is there anything else that, people should know about the investments that you all are trying to make in the city?
I think that, we are just focused on, again, investing in what we know works, using the data that we're seeing through our youth opportunity dashboard, through what we're hearing directly from youth to really help students break through those barriers and overall just improve their quality of life.
Well, you all are doing a wonderful job at that, and I'm sure they are grateful. We should all be so grateful as a community to have organizations that can invest in this type of way into our next generation. So thank you for what you do, and thank you for making time to talk about it here today.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
All right, you take care. It's about 3:56, everyone. Give us a quick break, and then we'll be back to close out our time here for Chicago Live today. right, welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for being here for yet another day with Chicago Live. Just to quickly update you on a couple of things, breaking news situations that we were monitoring during our time together. We took you to Wilmette for a fire that was happening there. Turns out that was an empty house that was under construction. There was some type of water main break there. And also the breaking news that we had out of Maryland. Unfortunately, it is one student that was shot inside of a high school. There is one person in custody right now in connection with that incident. There's plenty more big stories to follow next at 4, and we hope to see you between 1 and 4 again right here tomorrow.
Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4.
Let's catch up. Indiana wants the Bears. The stadium deal they put on the table, and why Illinois lawmakers say they won't